What is up, guys? Coop here, and today we're going to be covering mainly the maps for Battle for Azeroth. Now keep in mind these are untextured and have not fully been released yet, as the alpha is not even really out to the public much or up for presentation. So many of these things will probably change over time. Keep in mind, for example, the Jade Forest for Mists Pandaria completely changed 180 after it was developed. But today we're just going to kind of dive in and see what these maps look like and kind of zoom in a little bit to sort of see where it's going to be overall at. So let us take a look here. So the first one we got here is Arahi Highlands. Clearly you can tell just by the textures, and sort of you got Stromguard here, and then you got this giant wall. So very interesting to actually look at that. This looks like something that would strike me as the Warfront thing. What I do find interesting though is the textures from here to here. If you look here, you have sort of these like trees or like giant sort of splashes of something there. I'm assuming those are trees, but there's a little bit of a difference in between these two different maps here. So for example, if you check here, there's a lot of clear land, there's a little bit more of a base here and a little bit more of stuff around here. So it seems like there's a noticeable difference between this map and this map. I'm assuming that this is the leveling zone, and then this is like what happens afterwards. Just because there's noticeable differences, like this seems like it's not as set up as this. Like it seems like this is like a really set up base, they build like a trough, they have different paths. It's just very interesting, and I think with sort of the Warfronts with flying around and stuff, maybe they added a bunch of trees to just overall help out the aesthetic. But it's very interesting nonetheless to look at. Now we've got some different maps for Atal Dazar. So nothing really too crazy to talk about. It just looks like this is your typical, like, you go in here, there's 3 different ways to go. There's like a boss room, so nothing too crazy there. We got a screenshot for, it looks like one of the zones. I think this is actually one of the Alliance zones, but as you can see, it's very wintry looking. I think this is Duskvar, but don't quote me on that. Just in general, how the map sort of lays out, it's very nice. It's kind of got that swampy look. It's got the mist, like sort of mountains areas, and then it's got more of this kind of like dead land, and then sort of got like this like dead tree looking area, which is kind of cool. This looks like a sort of island or sort of an instance, specifically looking more humanoid. I wouldn't say this is troll. Some people I've seen try to say it's troll. The only reason I don't say that is because of the specific sort of ship architecture and the docks and the way that they're all set up. However, this part right here definitely looks like it could be sort of troll-based buildings, but I digress. This looks like one of the islands for the island expeditions, which I'm very excited about. Like, guys, it's gonna be awesome. Like, it's gonna be great. This has got different ships on here. I don't think it's gonna really matter because we're gonna have Horde and Alliance on pretty much all of these maps. But this just looks like your typical running around, exploring islands. In general, it looks really cool. So we got another one here. I mean, it just looks really cool. It's going to be really kind of interesting. I'm trying to figure out like what sort of goals we'll have on these islands. Like, are we just going in, killing mobs, and taking the loot, or like what is the end goal? Like, what is the solution where it's like, okay, you've killed all the creatures on the island, you can leave, or is it like you go in, you try to get the chest at the end? I'm just curious what sort of how the whole system will work. So that's kind of my interest, but. Let's see, and then you got all the zone for sort of Kul Tiras. So, like I said though, I think this is like Duskvar, then this is like sort of where the main capital and everything is. The map has kind of changed a hot little bit. If I actually look up real quick here. I actually look this up, because it looks like the map has changed significantly from when they showed us that with BFA. Nope, actually I was wrong. So if you check here, this is sort of the map for BFA. So on the left, so matches, yeah, it matches pretty well. But yeah, I was right. It is Duskvar. It looks like they changed sort of where the winter aspect is. They moved it to the right just slightly. So that seems like an interesting flow. But the rest of it looks like it's really doing well. It's definitely a lot snowier than I expected. Especially because, you know, this is an island in the middle of the ocean, rather than actually being to the north. Maybe they're going to retcon that a little bit more, because if you actually know about Kul Tiras, it was supposed to be where Tolbrad is, a little bit to the left of that. And that's why you see a lot of Kul Tirans there. However, it looks like they've changed sort of the atmosphere. And I don't know. It's just like one of those weird things where winter in like certain zones doesn't really make sense, but in other areas it's like a desert. I don't know. It's just an interesting aesthetic overall. But in general, it looks like a very exciting area. It looks like it's going to be very dark and gloomy for a lot of it, though. That's one of my only concerns. I don't want it to be like a very boring aesthetic. I want this to be kind of cool. So I'd be cool with this being kind of like a pirate nation, then this being kind of like a more foresty area, and then this being more of like the green area. But I just really hope that it's not dark and gloomy with these two zones, and then you go to here, and it's just kind of like you're kind of already bored at that point. This looks like just an ordinary like goblin area, so nothing really too crazy there. This looks like it's one of the Horde zones, maybe somewhere in Zandalar. I think this is probably the one area that we saw in the questing zone. This would be, I think, Nazmir? Yeah, it's Nazmir. Okay. So, a lot of really cool, interesting buildings here. If you actually look at the original here, if we actually zoom in on parts of it, there's some different, interesting stuff here. So, you got this whole giant, like, dead shrine here. A lot of different little cities, little coves, little, like, bases. That's kind of interesting. But the one stuff that really got me is this. You got like this giant like dead looking tree thing with these little bumps here, and then you got this giant like area here. So no clue what that could be at all, but that's really interesting to actually look at. Then we have another thing for the Undercity, just another map. It looks like the regular map, so no clue what's going on there, but it does say like the, let's see, the ruins of Lordaeron are always there. Yeah, I don't see any difference with this. Maybe they're hiding some of the bigger changes in there. That's kind of like a placehold model and everything. Because I really don't think we're going to be taking the Undercity. There's some hints at it in the future for the Alliance, but yeah. Oh, talking about the Siege of Lordaeron, we get to actually see the map for it. So, as you can see here, the Alliance is just full-blown invading that. And it's really cool because they're doing like sort of like a giant like path, like trenched up there. So awesome to see that. And a lot of people are wondering like, oh, are we going to visit Scarlet Monastery and stuff? No, we're not going to be visiting the Scarlet Monastery. When Blizzard has to design these maps, they have to put items like really far off in the distance to do sort of visual tricks to make it very easy to sort of feel like you're actually in the environment. It'd be very weird to go into sort of Tirisfal Glades and then not see Scarlet Monastery in the distance. So they have to do sort of all these different illusion tricks and things without adding too many character models, because then you have the issue of, for example, what was the fight? The one turtle boss in Front of Thunder. That had huge issues because it was loading in a lot of the old character models and things from the room behind it with all the ads while you're in the fight, so that would cause a crap ton of lag. So World of Warcraft has to do a lot of weird visual cues to hide stuff. So that's very interesting, though. I do like the whole, like, they're doing a path, so that allows their catapults and, like, tanks and stuff to get in really easily. So we're just full on, just boom, just going hard on them, which I find relatively interesting, especially because when I expected us to attack over here, from here, not up here, because we're going past the Blood Elf lands and everything. But anyways, I know that's really detailed to get into just this map picture, but it looks like we're just kind of like doing our trench way down, and then we're going to have like a big old sort of battle here, and then we're going to be able to push right in. So that was really cool. Next is this one. This one is the one that is a little concerning to me. if you actually look, this is Stormsong Valley, and if you look at it, it looks like an ordinary map. Everything's all fine and dandy, you know, you got your different like water areas and all that, but then you go over here and there's just this giant like squid thing, and people are already saying like, oh, it's Azeroth or it's this or that, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, no. Here's what I think though. The faction that is there is super duper creepy. So if we actually look up Stormsong Valley, if we look at the one screenshot, they have this like wizard guy, and he just looks like a bad guy. Like they've got like eyes and tentacles. Like that just screams old god to me. But these guys are monster hunters, so I wouldn't expect it to like I could see them finding like a giant squid, killing it, and then putting it on top of their palace as sort of a giant aesthetic. Or maybe this is just going to be a really fancy looking palace. But I think there's going to be a twist, and that they're going to be actually old god worshippers or something like that, and the blessing from the sea is actually blessings from the old gods, or I don't know. Whenever I think of tentacles and squids and things and monsters like that, I always think old gods. But this is very concerning, and some people are doing jokes about like how it looks because it's like a tentacle wrapped around a pole, just like that. It looks like he's jerking him, but in general, it's really cool, and they have it untextured for a reason. World of Warcraft really likes it to make speculation go wild. They do it all the time with the old god whispers, and they know that it works. But in general, this zone, other than that craziness right there, it just looks like an ordinary zone. It doesn't look like it has that much spice to it, but this is just looking at it from above a map. You don't know like what's down actually in it, but there is some interesting zones that I do see in here, though. Of this one right here, it's like got this little pink circle, and I'm kind of curious what that is. You got this whole hidden sort of village in the mountains, which is interesting as well, in this sort of giant dirt area here. But once again, nothing really too crazy. This is the actual capital city for Kul Tiras and everything. This is where we're going to be dealing with a lot of Jaina's story. I kind of expect just, yeah, it looks like a lot of different buildings here. I'm assuming this is like the giant capital city, which I kind of enjoy. And then there's like an island off to the coast. But this is going to be like the pirate nation. That's a very cool zone to go over to in general. So I already know how that's going to go. We have ourselves another island. Then we have the zone for the Horde, which I totally forget what the name of this place is. Vol'Dun? So Vol'Dun is pretty interesting. It's actually one of my favorite zones. Like the Horde gets a lot of good zones. They have like the whole Zandalar zones. They have like sort of the dark like troll, like blood troll zone, and then they have this zone. So it's a very interesting aesthetic. It's got like sort of like sands and like different like snake creatures and Vulpin and all of that. And it's super cool. It's got a lot of good architecture in here that I think will be rather interesting. So you got this giant like palace like temple thing going on here. You got this whole city down here. It's gonna remind me a lot of like Zul'Farrak and not Syphilis, but the place where what is it? The Caverns of Time's at. I forget the name. It's on the top of my tongue. But it kind of reminds me of that with like all the different like sand trolls and everything. So very excited about that. They got a whole like building in the mountains though. That's kind of interesting. So we might see like something in the mountains besides dwarven architecture for once. So that'll be kind of cool. And then we got an area over here. So a lot of different key zones it looks like. With a little bit in the middle. Now this is kind of interesting. It's got like a little like tear thing going on here. Yeah, like right there. I don't know what that is, but it looks cool. Looks like it's something important. And then you got the whole like zones as like a thing. So this is like all of the Horde area, which the giant awesome temple city in the middle of another temple city. So really cool looking zone there. And then this looks like it is the actual capital of Zandalar, which would be Zuldazar. So that is kind of like the giant temple city, which is going to be, I guess, the quote-unquote main city. So that'll be really interesting. The textures for this are kind of weird though. Like, look at that. It just looks like a weird texture. I've never really seen that, so I really can't tell you what that is. But it looks like that's like a base, or actually that looks like it's like a boneyard full of like dinosaurs. So, but that's kind of interesting. Looks all really cool. It looks like there's a lot of really cool zones in this one. So the Horde, I feel like they have like the better map aesthetics, but who knows, maybe they can like pump out the Alliance ones a lot more. But anyways, though, I thank you guys for watching. I just wanted to show you guys real quick some of the maps of Battle for Azeroth. I thought they were relatively interesting and cool to talk about in general. So definitely gotta say A+ to the Horde. They have a lot of really cool looking questing zones and everything. The only thing that is really interesting about the Alliance side is mainly sort of our capital city. That area looks like it's a lot of fun with like the architecture and things going on in there, but obviously we're getting a top-down aesthetic, so we don't actually know what it'll look like. And the giant like squid temple thing there, that looks really cool as well. So anyways, I thank you guys for watching. Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. I am trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers by the end of February, because obviously you guys know why. Well, for our smaller YouTubers, we are going to be making significantly less money, and then on top of it, it's going to make it really hard for me to get my videos a little bit more ranking. But I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.